state, it's out of country. Going from there, there's a lot of steps, and it's a long process to get there, fundraising opportunities and things like that we're going through. So if you have questions, I can be more than happy to entertain what I can. If you've ever been to Italy, you'll understand this will really open the eyes of some of our kids about the existence of the United States and how old they think Hudsonville might be. Wait till you go over there and you realize what old is when you walk on hit the Colosseum or the Roman steps or Spanish steps, or work your way to the Bridge of Sighs or over in Venice to all that stuff in Florence, and buying leather and try not to get pickpocketed when you're there. So. Questions on the trip?
Alright, next up, Dr. Dandrajak, you with your goals.
Yeah, so this is gonna sound another, interesting, but I'm gonna review kind of where I am this year, full transparency. We're gonna do this work again in a month, or 2 months, in January, to say, okay, where are we? So, feedback is always, welcome, but it's probably not gonna change the last part of my goal structure for this year, but it would be valued, feedback so that we can go into January and early, even if it's based on our structure meeting. I still have to get with Mrs. Hemis about make sure her schedule works, so we can make sure we have all our board meetings set, things like that. We haven't set for the year, but I just wanna check to make sure schedules, we're waiting for the election to be certified. No disrespect, Mr. DeWitt. But the election hasn't been certified yet, so let's see what happens. So, but yeah, so here's just a quick review of my goals. I did do this back in June and reviewed, answered several questions. And I'll go from this real quick. Can I share this? Or can you see it on your computers?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just do it that way, cause
Yeah.
I don't, okay. So real quick, the first one is about assessments. That's the way the goals stated on that page, that's how it was written in the plan. A lot of the action steps you can see are right in there. We've talked about assessments. We did have the presentation on where we are with assessments maybe a month or 2 months ago, I think now. Went from there. We still have our school guiding coalitions. We've had our district meetings with department chairs and so forth, with our SMART goals, not only in ELA but in mathematics, and we continue the committee work in both ELA and math. Part of the discussion around the math curriculum and the shift goes to trying to get kids the standards prior to them being assessed. So some of this goal work, the outcome of that, and the strategic plan feedback was to get algebra to our kids sooner if possible, and maybe that's a future goal to say, you know what, maybe we can get more kids to get algebra prior to getting to high school. The second goal was about feedback from our constituents. We still have, I think all of you have been to an interschool advisory meeting and saw the feedback. I have a meeting with a few parents from the interschool advisory tomorrow. They continue, it's a great avenue for them to be able to feel comfortable reaching out to have conversations. And it's also a great avenue for us to have consistency amongst PTOs. I know Barb and Mark were at the last one. We still have to get them on the same page about, is it a PTA, PTO, or PTC? Because there's still 3 different for 8 buildings, but we're getting there. I think this conversation is gonna, this stems to another board, the work that I think the board will advise me to undertake about what is the future when it comes to communication with our constituents regarding future, maybe bond projects, things like that. So we'll talk about that in the future. The DAC work, we talked about that tonight. I think you've given me some great feedback moving forward that I can share with Mrs. Thomas as we go through to do this work. We still have our monthly meetings, as opposed to the one that was just canceled, but to really bring back recommendations to the board on what the next direction is of that committee and the work that they've done, and go from there.
Just a quick comment.
Yes.
One of the things that I'd like to see some information about is, as you've been collecting the feedback from the transient students have left, if there's relevance to this work we're doing, after a period of time. I don't know if that's something that you can share or how that works, but.
So the latest one we did was this fall. We did one last fall and this fall. Last fall it looks quite a bit different than it did this fall. This fall it was all over the board. I will tell you that there were some about we had to move and we're upset we had to move. There were others that were like, my kid's tired of getting bullied. We need to go to another school. school, I don't think there's a reason why you can't, I don't see there's a reason why you can't stop in and I can show you what the data looks like,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Dr. Dean,
Yeah.
when someone has indicated that their child's been bullied and they can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
Were we aware of the bullying incidences?
It
Because it's hard if
depends.
we're not aware,
I know,
it's hard to address it. Even with-
absolutely.
Even with, no matter what we implement, if we don't know about it, we can't do something about it.
So I'll give you an example that, I met with a student and a high school counselor and the parent of the student talking about, and the student would like to address the board. And I said, you're welcome to address the board. I said, but one of the comments was, this happens every day. And I said, I'm gonna say this, if you share with the board, it happens every day, they're gonna say, why wasn't something done? That's what I said. And I said, can you give me an example? And they said, well, a few months ago, this happened. Okay, that's a great example. I think if you say, I don't need to tell you this happens every day, I can say, here is a specific example of what happened. I'm sitting at lunch and these kids were throwing tater tots at me, or whatever it is, or they're calling me this name. If you're specific, then we can also address it. There was another, in the same conversation, I said, can you tell me who was doing it? She goes, no. And I said, did you report it? No. They're not gonna do anything anyway. I said, how do you know if you don't report it? So it is a conversation that we have. We do have kids that do report it, and I will tell you this, I know Mrs. Armstrong can attest to this from a Title IX standpoint. We address it anytime somebody shares those. We do have situations though, that it comes to a he said, she said. They called me this, no I didn't. It's deeper than that, but we still have the conversation. It is hard though to discipline a student without evidence. If Ann says, you know, Doug's calling me names, and she said, ask Dawn, she was sitting next to me, and Dawn's not even one of my friends, ask whatever, and Dawn says, yep, I heard him say it. That's a different conversation than it's just Ann and I having a conversation right there. So I say our principals address it daily. Most of the times when people say they're leaving, if we look at maybe the name of the student, we'll be like, can you call the principal? Like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Have you never heard that? Or, yes, we've done X, Y, and Z, and it's still not meeting their needs. So, it's real, but there's a lot of times there's a story to a lot of them. Yeah.
I don't know if it's, if I missed it in the earlier presentation about the DAC committee, but I've long thought that there ought to be some way of helping kids to know how to deal with bullying. Because I don't think anybody gets through life without being bullied. And somewhere in our curriculum or our training, we need to help kids know you're gonna get bullied. Hopefully not here, but here is how you can deal with it. And that I think would be a productive course or lesson to have.
And I think it's included, if I'm not mistaken, in,
But just don't wanna miss, if it isn't there, it ought to be there.
Yeah, maybe that's part of those lessons that we talked about.
If
Maybe
it's
something
there,
that's,
it ought to be emphasized strongly, because no matter what we do in terms of training, you have some pernicious people in the world, who, no matter how much you train them, they're gonna bully. And people need to know how to deal with that.
did you have something to add about that?
no, I'm just trying to recall, I know it's a lesson that was included in something that we looked at, but I just don't remember if that was through.
There are, but I think to Mark's point is, it doesn't mean you teach them in second grade and they remember that all
Yes.
through, and it looks different
Very
at the high
true.
school than it does at the elementary, so
Very true.
maybe this is something that should be taught every year, and just different lesson based on the age of the
Age level.
student.
I think every person, every instance of bullying needs to have that as a part of the response. You know, do the disciplining, but also the person who's been bullied needs to have some conflict about how you deal with this, because that is life.
Be real powerful.
That is
Way
really.
still to have.
The next goal, goal 4, is about construction. I think I keep the board pretty updated. I know Pat and I meet every 2 weeks with construction still work. It's starting to slow down a little bit, but we're finishing up the project at Park. You got a little bit of an update on that this last Thursday, I guess, when we were just here last. We're just finishing up the last couple projects. I do wanna, this goal is a goal that I think, talking with our construction and design staff, that I am probably more involved in this work than most superintendents are. But it's easy to be involved with this, I get to work with Pat and his staff, I mean, Pat's really good at this stuff, so it helps. Just his, just all the work that he puts into making sure that he's doing the best he can, with the money that we have and being good stewards of the money too. So I did share, I talked about this last Thursday, that's the design, the Leading by Design. I flagged the book, we had 5 copies of it, I know there are 6 of you, I didn't intentionally leave somebody out, but if you wanna look through it, then pass it on to somebody that may not have it, that'd be great, so. Any questions on construction? I know you know how to call too if you have
Are
questions.
these timelines still accurate? Bauer and ECC, are we wrapping up?
Yeah,
This
the
fall?
fall, so ECC should be done by, it'll, first of the year, we should be in the ECC and be done. So we're already in the cafeteria and the motor room.
Yep.
That was the wrestling room. Now they're redoing the old cafeteria into 2 classrooms, and that work should be done, January 6th, I think, or 8th, right in there, that first week, we're trying to get into it, we'll start using them.
Awesome.
Bauer's done, besides punch list, I mean, there's still gonna be punch lists for years, but Bauer's done. And then Park Elementary is a little bit ahead of schedule, but not, it's not to the point where, they very well could be able to use the media, the library, a little bit early, but if not, they won't have to try to move into their classrooms the day school starts, which is normally what happens for construction. It's like you get into it and then school starts in 2 days, now we'll be able to get into it early.
Fantastic.
Pat, I believe that your boss just articulated that he's riding your coattails.
But I
I'm
have
100%, but if it gets messed up, then it is my fault, not 100%. Yeah. And then communication, we talked a little bit about the goal of the work, of making sure that feedback and expectations monitor effectiveness communication. I hope you've received enough communication from me, that's something I can continue to work on. But I also know that based on a lot of, well, let's just say this, we've had up to 40 to 60 people come in for public comment board meetings, comment at board meetings, and I think we're in a different place right now, and I think a lot of it has to do with, just some of the work the board and the administration have been doing and going from there, so. That's it.
Okay, any questions for Dr. Vanderjack? This is taking place of a formal evaluation. For MESB, we can do just a goal update, so that's what Dr. Vanderjack has done for us tonight. Any questions?
Because in January, Doug will be
Yeah, so-
establishing,
No,
Yeah.
so per MESB guidelines, in January, Doug and the board will collaboratively develop the goals. So at a work session, we'll put goal development, what we would like to have Dr. Vanderjack work on in collaboration with him and the board, and we'll do that at a January work session. And then, I know Dr. Vanderjack had mentioned about the board meetings, and I just want to remind, we have a new board member replacing Mark Davis, so in January, we'll do officer elections, and currently the board meeting is scheduled for the 13th, and I have a conflict that day, and I've asked Doug, I think all board members need to be present, so I have asked that meeting be changed.
We have a lot of conflicts in January, so I very well might send out, we might have a unique first meeting, it could be it won't be on a Sunday, but it could very well be on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. It just might be when are your schedules available, it could be a unique time. We might have a unique, maybe it's just a quick board meeting to appoint officers, and maybe there's a follow-up meeting. We're trying to figure this out, because the first meeting, I have, the first and third, I might have a conflict, you have a conflict, and
Yeah.
others might have conflict, so we'll work on that once we end this. I just wanna certify the vote, so that we can then connect with Joy also, and get her schedule.
Sounds good.
I apologize for being the problem child that I had.
Well,
shared that with Doug
I wouldn't
in
dare say it's,
September.
I'm the problem child, so I don't think that's a fair statement.
I just want to comment too that on your third goal, Dr. Vanderjack, on diversity and advocacy, you have a timeline to accomplish the goal of with the DAC committee and all that stuff on May 31st, 2024.
Yep.
And I just wanna say that even though that date hasn't been met, the fact that you guys pulled back due to the intricacy of the importance of the thing that you were working on, I appreciate that. Sometimes it's not just meeting the date that we set, but it's making sure that it's done correctly, so I appreciate it.
Well, good. It's a big plane to land, we wanna make sure we land it
Right.
safely.
All right, any questions for Dr. Vanderjack? All right.
Under 2 hours, I thought we'd go more, so.
Oh, yeah, we had 2.5 is the over.
I had 8:30.
I had 8:05.
But it's-
We got it.
All right, so we will finish with a round table. And we'll start with Dawn Stevens.
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
I just wanna say, I wasn't at the last board meeting, but I wanna say that I've had the opportunity to follow the Hudsonville Marching Band again this semester. And I was sharing with Dr. Vanderjack, I'd really like an update on the band numbers, because there was a significant difference between last year and this year. I'm telling you, I think there was another 20 to 30 band members.
27.
27? The difference in the performance was astronomical, and so we were at state, and I'm watching them perform, and I've got them pegged at a certain place. And I had them pegged like in 6th place, they finished 9th. And I was talking to Craig Vanderwall, he said, but Barb, they finished 8 points higher than they did last year, and I said, yeah, it showed. And just, this weekend was Bands of America, and Hudsonville does not participate, but I do wanna share that Craig Vanderwall was there with a group of students and parents watching. What they could learn, and that's just an awesome event to go to. So I just want kudos to our band program. It's really good. What a difference.
Yeah, we're getting there. The requirement of 9th graders to be in marching band, I dealt with several phone calls from parents that weren't happy.
Yeah.
And technically, when I was on the field for the state finals, one of them came up to me and said, I was that parent.
Yeah.
This is the best thing that happened to my kid.
It's-
They're gonna do it
they're-
again.
I'm
So
telling you,
our goal is to get another 15 to 20 next year. And then the following year is when all of our 6th graders will be in high school that had music required. We had 100% of our kids participate in a music. Their 6th grade year, 78% of them continued in 7th grade, which is good and bad. I'm looking at Ann from a staffing standpoint. We know, we're optimistic of where this leads, and we will be looking at FTE adjustments based on size. We're not gonna put 200 kids in the band and say, Craig, you got this. But I'm excited. I mean, it looks better, but it sounds so much different when you put
it
almost
does.
30 more kids on that field. And if we have to get more equipment, we'll be all right.
You do okay? So I just want to say I'm really proud of the band.
Doesn't even look
Didn't even look it up.
He was nodding, he knew. He's like.
He's listening.
Yes.
All right,
Yeah.
Mr. Jansky.
I had a 7th grade grandchild daughter who's part of the flag, what do they call them? The
Color guard.
Color guard, as a 7th grader, and all the many things that it's taught her as far as, using her time and that kind of stuff, and just to thank Craig for taking on someone that young and doing those types of things.
Yeah, just to add to that, I talked to Mr. Vanderwall at the football game the day before they went to state, and they were at that game, the band was at that game the entire time. They loaded up their stuff, it was like, I heard they got there like 1:30 in the
Yeah.
morning, or something like that, and they went and performed. But Mr. Vanderwall told me, like, these kids wanted to be there, they wanted to support their community, they wanted to support the players. I also learned that football players wrote handwritten letters to a number of the bands.
Every single band member got a handwritten note from the football players
That's
wishing them
awesome.
luck at the
Yeah.
state finals.
So to me, it's like, the football team is doing a great job, they play Saturday, right, at Okemos at 1. The band is doing incredible, like performance-wise, but these are good kids, led by really, really good people. And to me, that's what it's all about, so.
Greg, you didn't give me a chance to comment to your comment, but I would recommend that you and Mr. Bullheis take a course from Hillsdale College. They're online courses, they're free, in classic literature.
Send me the link.
I'll send you the link.
I was in
Send the link and then and then, you know, he can pay for the course.
There was no-
That's
The course was free.
Oh.
They're free.
I was in honors English in 11th and 12th grade at Creston High School.
You were what?
I was in honors English.
I don't doubt that at all.
And Mrs. Grants.
I don't doubt that at all.
So, anyway.
All right.
I'm sorry, one quick thing, Robin gave me the signal, I forgot, but for the trip request, Deb has submitted the license, insurance, ADA compliance documentation to Robin that she had to, so I just want to let you, I failed to mention that during the trip request.
And I just wanted to say that if they needed a nurse to accompany them, I see my calendar.
As long as you can administer Narcan.
And I can, do the heart. I can do that, and I'm CPR certified.
Good to go.
All right, I will take a motion to
Actually, you
adjourn.
I'll move
You
that.
got
Motion from Mark, a second.
Support.
Second from John, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, meeting is adjourned.
So Greg, did your study class take a picture or?
Can't remember.